Well, hello and welcome to Will Henry's Workshop. I'm, of course, Will Henry. Well, I think in the last segment I was just getting that 6.5 Creedmoor ready to take it in and shoot it a silhouette match. Well, as it turns out, I didn't shoot it at the silhouette match. By the time I was finished with the day of small bore shooting, my back was sore enough that I begged off the high power, so I didn't shoot it. Maybe we'll take another field trip here one day and go into the silhouette range and I'll try it out. But for now, with that being out of the way, it's back to the parade of Kimbers, and so I have two more to do right now, and one of them is mountain ascent that's going to become a 338-06, and the other one is a Montana that's going to become a 6mm Creedmoor. I just went to the post office and picked up the new 6mm Creedmoor reamer, and I gotta tell you, reamers are just a little more costly than they used to be, and I'm kind of glad my career is winding down instead of starting up. But anyway, I picked up the reamer. It's a Manson reamer, and I expect it'll be just dandy. And like I say, the other is a 338-06, and for it I'm going to have to recontour the barrel, which is fairly stout, and so we'll get at that. But before I do that, also in the mail, I had a pre-64 Model 70 show up for a barrel swap, and it's a 1953 model, sitting there in the barrel vise, and 1953 model, and he's got this 1950 barrel to go onto it, because I don't know how many shots he's put through this. I think he's owned the rifle for at least 40 years, and it's seen a lot of shooting. So anyway, but the thing is with the pre-64s, it doesn't matter when the barrel was made, when the action was made, chances are that that barrel will not only headspace perfectly, it'll register. That is, the sights will end up on top, the extractor cut will be in the right place, and everything will be dandy. So we'll see if that works out this time. Now, I'm going to try this inside wrench to start with and see just how tight this is. And the answer to that is pretty darn tight. I don't know if I can break it loose or not. I cannot. So we'll use it as an outside wrench and see what we can accomplish. I think I'd mentioned before, when I use this outside wrench, I like to shove a mandrel into the action, pretty tight fitting one, so that when I tighten this up, there's no risk of squashing the receiver, because I've seen a few of them, both Model 70s and small ring Mausers especially, that have had a wrench over tightened on them, and it has squashed the receiver, and which kind of ruins it, really. Anyway, so that's on. Now the best way to get those loose is to give this a good smack and see what happens. Tell you what, That's a very, very tight barrel. We're going to reset. And tighten the vise a little more. And we'll try this again with our tapper. There we go, Bob's your uncle. Now interestingly, just before this, I was taking the barrel off that Kimber mountain ascent, and it was the tightest Kimber I've ever come across. So I ended up having to turn down the end of my Kimber wrench, and so that I could put this cheater on there, and it took a hard pull on that cheater to break it loose. I don't like to hammer on them with the inside wrench, especially on the Kimbers, because while they may not be, they look a little bit fragile. So anyway, this has come loose nicely, although it did take a couple of swats to do it. So let's see what happens with that other barrel. Wind this off of here. No. And we'll see if I have to tighten up this other barrel that much to get it to line up. But yeah, this barrel's got about a 2-inch long throat in it, so it's undoubtedly hit the limit of its life. According to the guy that owns it, it still wasn't shooting all that badly, but it was nothing like it used to be, and I was quite sure they didn't make a bullet long enough to ever get anywhere near the lands anymore. So. Just a little bit of lithium grease on here. And let's see what we end up with. I think we're going to be pretty close to being adequate there. I'll just use here. Let's so if I just use one machinist square in the rear sight dovetail, and I'm going to put the other one on top of the top of the rear scope base. And see where I'm at. I got to go just a little further. Might have to turn that wrench around and give it a swat with our persuader. Nope, that's just fine. It's just about where we want to be. Check it with the other eye. Yeah, in fact, now I've gone just a little bit too far, so I'll just get back off just a tiny bit. There we go. That's so there it is. Once again, 1950 to 1953. The other thing that I always found kind of fascinating, even with a Model 54 Winchester, the predecessor to the Model 70, a barrel from a Model 54 will also index on a Model 70. Now, after 1963, from 1964 on, their manufacturing methodology obviously changed a little bit, and so that they would no longer register. And I'm not sure how they were fixtured and or the machinery used previously, but then the other interesting thing, or if you're interested in such things, barrels from Model 94s and Model 95s, all the early lever action Winchesters, have the same feature. They're interchangeable. So anyway, that's that for this one, and I'm going to pause you while I take it out and I'll get the Kimber in the vise. There we are back again. The Model 70 is out of the barrel vise, and I'm going to put this short Kimber. And there, this Montana was originally chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor, which really for a short action Montana, that's pretty well an ideal chambering, really. But he has enough medium bores. I guess he wanted to go with something a little smaller, so 6mm it is. And to be honest, I'd kind of wanted to build a 6mm Creedmoor for myself, and I didn't want to buy the reamer on my own, so he'll be helping me to build mine, unbeknownst to him, or beknownst to him, I guess. Anyway, there it is. So we'll remove this barrel, and hopefully it's a little easier than the last one, and definitely I hope it's easier than that darn Model 70 was. With the Kimber being a pretty small shank, not quite 1 1/16", I have to double up on my bushings here. this the person's tightening up the arrow vise. It's got to be pretty tight, but unless it's absolutely necessary, I don't like to overdo it. And with good reason. There was one time when I'd had a barrel slip a little bit, so I wanted to tighten it up extra tight. So I was pulling pretty hard on the old breaker bar here, and the damn bolt broke. And I ended up stumbling clear across the shop, and ended up stepping on my welder and breaking a switch off. So a person's got to be a little careful. That's an important safety tip. Now, we'll see what we're dealing with this particular Kimber. Hopefully, like I say, it's an easy one. And it is not. Boy, this is just, this isn't old Will Henry's day. Maybe I'm just losing horsepower, and these things just seem tight, but I'm telling you. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that's, of all the Kimbers I've done lately, these two have been by far the tightest that I've had to deal with. In contrast, I unscrewed the barrel from this 40X action that someone else had barreled who knows when. Well, actually I know when, 22 years ago, because he'd marked the date on the barrel. But anyway, I was just kind of getting warmed up to pull on the wrench, and the darn thing came loose. So had a variety today. So there we go, another really tight Kimber. And but once it's loose, it comes off fine. In fact, the threads are a little bit sloppy. The recoil lug out, and everything looks pretty good in there. Now this other one, the long action, which had previously been a 280 AI, and it's going to become, as you recall, the 338.6. This one shows definite signs of galling. In fact, fairly severe on the left hand or upper lug. And I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to try. Let's see what we can. No. You know what? I'm going to have to get a camera that has a little more definition, because this just isn't showing me what I'd like to see. But anyway, what you should be able to see, but can't, because I've been too cheap to buy a good camera, is that there's a real divot in the lug, and a little bit of metal piled up behind that divot. And this happens especially with stainless steel actions. Stainless steel kind of has an affinity for itself, and so that if it's under pressure and if and not lubricated, or under enough pressure that the lubricant fails, it'll stick, it'll gall, and or pick up, and that, so the two pieces will stick together, and when they move, it tears a chunk out of one or the other. And in this case, it appears as if the chunk was actually torn up in the receiver, and it dented the lug. If I look in the receiver, I can see that there was definitely a little piece torn out of there, and reaching in with a scribe, well, I mean, it's obvious. And the other thing that's pretty obvious is that this bolt has set back just a little bit. It's enough to feel, and I'm going to see if it's enough to measure, because and this is possibly a pitfall with rifles chambered in cartridges like the 280 Ackley Improved. Nobody buys a 280 Ackley Improved so that he can duplicate factory 280 ballistics. But the truth is, no matter what he does, unless he overloads it, he's not going to beat what he can do with the standard 280 by very much. But a lot of people are convinced that 280 Ackley is just kind of like a 7mm Remington Magnum in a different package. Well, it's not. But consequently, they tend to load a little hot sometimes, and with results like this. So we're going to see what I'm going to measure this right now, in fact, and we're going to see just what has happened here. And I'm going to pause you for a second while I get my stuff, just in the interest of brevity. Okay, back again. So both, let's just move you up here. So you're out of the way, yet you can still kind of see. I'm trying a little more light on the subject. And let's zoom in just a little bit. Okay, so both walking lug seats show some signs of setback. So I'm going to measure, first we'll measure the top one. And the portion of the seat that is untouched measures out at 1.417. 4.418. So if we go back over to where the lug has been contacting, okay, now where it wasn't contacting, I said 1.418, but it was really about 1.41706 or so. You know, definitely over a half, but less than 3/4 sort of thing. And if I go over to where it has set back, there it is 1.418 even. So, or you know, maybe a hair less. So I would say that locking lug seat has deformed by about 2 or 3 10,000ths of an inch, and that's not horrendous. But the fact is, any deformation is something you don't want to see, and now, sometimes you'll see wear in a seat, and but it presents differently. It's pretty obvious when you have abrasion, wear caused by abrasion, in comparison to setback, where you have deformation from pressure. And in this case, on the top lug, which had galled, there is, of course, some sign of abrasion. But on the bottom one, it's all setback. Now on the bottom, on the used portion, we're seeing 1.418 and a third, so 183. And on the part that's unused, it's 1.4178 or so. So again, we have, back you up here, and I'm sure you'd much rather see my face than anything else. So again, we have deformation on the order of 3/10,000ths or so. Now, I don't think that's anything to be concerned about. If it was deformed by 1,000th of an inch, I would start to worry. And if it was deformed by 2/1000ths, I wouldn't want to work with the action, because once you have exceeded the strength limit of the steel by that much, perhaps you're starting to cause some other damage. But on this, there's no sign of any upset of the lugs or anything, so I think it's all right. And hopefully, as a 330-06 in this mountain ascent, it's going to kick hard enough that he won't want to overload it. And I also I want to be sure and say that the actual owner of this, I don't think was responsible for this. I think it was the previous owner, the guy he bought it from. And anyway, now the one other thing on this that you can't see because of the cheapskate in his camera, is that on the lug there was actually some metal displaced a little bit, so it kind of bulges up there, and that's not an ideal situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stone that a little bit just to clean that lug up. So we'll just get a fine India stone here. Feel this with the scribe, and it looks pretty smooth, so just a little bit more right here. And there, all I did was remove that high spot, and I haven't changed anything on the rest of the lug, but at least now it's smooth and won't tend to pick up anything. And I'll probably lap that just a little bit, and with some very fine compound, possibly even JB board cleaning compound, which is not much of a lapping compound, but it does cut. Anyway, just to smooth things out. And this other one is the short action is much better, although there again on the bottom lug, well, it's just there's not really a ridge. I can almost feel a little bit of a ridge there, but you know what, because I can see it, I might even kind of be fooling myself into to feel, well, there's definitely a ridge there. There again, somebody loading his 6.5 Creedmoor a little hot, trying to make it perform just like a 6.5 by 55, which it won't unless you pressure it up a little bit. Anyway, there we go. So they're set. They're going to get chambered for what they're going to get chambered for, and then from then on, I'm done with the Kimbers, and after that, I'm probably not going to take any more work from other people. Well, I have one more, a Macmillan action that I have to rebarrel, and so that'll be something just a little different. We'll record that, and then after that, it's going to be all about me, because I'm going to start shooting bench rest again. I have to get some rifles going. That's and especially for next year's tack driver match in South Carolina, which I talked myself into signing up for. I don't want to embarrass myself at it, so I'm going to have to kind of work at it a little bit. And so a lot of what goes on in the old shop is going to be dedicated to myself, trying to not embarrass myself at a semi-major match. So anyway, that's it. So for now, this is Will Henry, out.